Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Once you label me, you negate me. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use. Don't forget to love yourself. Prayer does not change God, but it changes him who prays. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. Love is all, it gives all, and it takes all. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. Take away paradox from the thinker and you have a professor. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. Patience is necessary, and one cannot reap immediately where one has sown. Most men pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that they hurry past it. Boredom is the root of all evil, the despairing refusal to be oneself. The tyrant dies and his rule is over. The martyr dies and his rule begins. It belongs to the imperfection of everything human that man can only attain his desire by passing through its opposite. Life has its own hidden forces, which you can only discover by living. At the bottom of enmity between strangers lies indifference. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. It is so hard to believe because it is so hard to obey. Be that self which one truly is. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. Personality is only ripe when a man has made the truth his own. It seems essential, in relationships and all tasks, that we concentrate only on what is most significant and important. Love does not alter the beloved, it alters itself. One can advise comfortably from a safe port. Purity of heart is to will one thing. I feel as if I were a piece in a game of chess. When my opponent says of it, that piece cannot be moved. During the first period of a man's life, the greatest danger is not to take the risk. Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. Far from idleness being the root of all evil, it is rather the only true good. Trouble is the common denominator of living. It is the great equalizer. If I am capable of grasping God objectively, I do not believe. But precisely because I cannot do this, I must believe. Because of its tremendous solemnity, death is the light in which great passions, both good and bad, become transparent, no longer limited by outward appearances. Since my earliest childhood, a barb of sorrow has lodged in my heart. As long as it stays, I am ironic. If it is pulled out, I shall die. There are, as is known, insects that die in the moment of fertilization. So it is with all joy. Life's highest, most splendid moment of enjoyment is accompanied by death. People commonly travel the world over to see rivers and mountains, new stars, garish birds, freak fish, grotesque breeds of human. They fall into an animal stupor that gapes at existence, and they think they have seen something. Concepts, like individuals, have their histories and are just as incapable of withstanding the ravages of time as are individuals. But in and through all this, they retain a kind of homesickness for the scenes of their childhood. Since boredom advances and boredom is the root of all evil, no wonder, then, that the world goes backwards, that evil spreads. This can be traced back to the very beginning of the world. The gods were bored. Therefore they created human beings. Listen to the cry of a woman in labor at the hour of giving birth. Look at the dying man's struggle at his last extremity, and then tell me whether something that begins and ends thus could be intended for enjoyment. The paradox is really the pathos of intellectual life, and just as only great souls are exposed to passions, it is only the great thinker who is exposed to what I call paradoxes, which are nothing else than grandiose thoughts in embryo. Just as in earthly life lovers long for the moment when they are able to breathe forth their love for each other, to let their souls blend in a soft whisper, so the mystic longs for the moment when in prayer he can, as it were, creep into God.